Hi, Zia, and today I want to connect two stories that don't usually get discussed together. One is about the oil prices that's currently surging. The other is about how last year's geopolitical decisions are directly impacting and shaping the instability that we're seeing today. Because this isn't random. What we're witnessing is the delayed impact of power politics, conflict mismanagement, and short-term strategic thinking. So let's get into it. Okay, so starting off with our first news story, oil prices are spiking, and why does this matter? Oil prices are climbing sharply again, with Brent and WTI crude reacting to renewed geopolitical risk, particularly in the Middle East. Anytime you hear the word supply fears in global markets, what that really means is that markets believe something could break politically or militarily and fast. Right now, the biggest concerns center on escalating Middle East tensions, disruptions around key maritime choke points, and the possibility that a regional conflict could turn into something wider. And here's my opinion. This is not just about oil. Oil prices are the early warning system of geopolitics. Before missiles fly, before sanctions are announced, before governments admit there's a problem, markets move first. And what they're telling us right now, very clear, is that global stability is fragile. Higher oil prices don't just affect gas stations. They drive inflation, food costs, transportation prices, and ultimately political instability inside fragile states. So when oil spikes, it's not just an economical story, it is a geopolitical stress test. So with that said, let's move on to our next story. Okay, so let's zoom out. To understand why markets are this nervous, you have to look at 2025 because last year quietly reshaped the global order. I mean, if you look at it, 2025 was the year when major wars became normalized rather than resolved. Diplomatic red lines blurred, and global leadership became far more transactional. Conflicts in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia didn't disappear. They hardened. What used to be seen as temporary crisis became permanent pressure points. And in my view, this was the year when the international system stopped pretending it was still operating under post-Cold War rules. Power politics returned in full force, security guarantees became conditional, alliances became interest-based rather than values-based, and energy once again became a weapon.
We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world go in and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela, and the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela.
So taking a look at the third news headline, energy is back as a geopolitical weapon. And this is actually where the two stories connect. Oil prices aren't rising in a vacuum. They're rising because energy producers' no leverage has shifted. Energy importing nations are exposed, and military risk is once again baked into supply chains. In 2025, the world learned again that energy independence is national security, and countries that don't have it are now paying the price. Personally, I think Western governments underestimated just how quickly geopolitics would return to hard power realities. There was actually once an assumption that markets, diplomacy, and international institutions could manage these risks. That assumption no longer holds. Which brings me to point number 4, my personal take actually. This is a failure of strategic foresight. Here's my honest opinion. This oil spike isn't just about today's tensions. It's the result of years of reactive policymaking. Governments spent too much time managing headlines instead of managing outcomes. They tolerated frozen conflicts. They outsourced energy security. They assumed deterrence would maintain itself. Well, it doesn't. Deterrence requires credibility. Markets require stability. And right now, both are in short supply. So if leaders had treated 2025 as a warning instead of a holding pattern, we might not be seeing this level of volatility today.
President Trump says that big U.S. oil companies will now invest billions to fix its badly broken oil infrastructure. Chevron is the only American oil company that currently operates in Venezuela, and oil executives, U.S. officials aren't yet laying out specifics of how this will work. Venezuela's oil supply has been crippled for decades by sanctions and mismanagement. So right now, the country only accounts for about 1% of global production. And at this moment in the global oil market, there is already more supply than demand. That has helped push gas prices near a 5-year low. The average price for a gallon of gas in the U.S. now $2.81. Now, the oil market doesn't open for trading until 6 p.m. Eastern tonight, so we'll see more then on the immediate direction of prices. The bottom line, as one longtime energy analyst told me, the bones of a powerhouse oil industry are there in Venezuela, but it could take years to build them back up.
So when you see oil prices rising, don't just think about economics. Think about where diplomacy failed, where power shifted, and where conflict is being delayed, not resolved. Because energy markets don't lie. They're telling us exactly how unstable the world has become. And unless global leadership changes course, this won't be the last warning. So with that said, that's it for today's stories on Context Untold with Z. Now, the warning signs are there, but the only question is, what happens next? What do you think? Let me know in the comment section.